Half a dozen straight defeats, the latest against the Dragons in Brisbane, 13th on the ladder, and with 7 games to go and a sneaky bye slotted in there. You heard there from a few of our legends, Gus. They don't see the Broncos playing finals footy. Agree?
Yeah, well, mathematically it starts getting harder, doesn't it? I just don't know where the cut-off will be for the top 8 this year. We've got so many teams in contention and so many teams playing each other in that part of the competition. It's hard to say exactly how many points you're going to need to make the top 8. Broncos were missing a lot of star players and have been for a few weeks now, in particular Adam Reynolds, and I'm not sure when he's going to make his comeback, but they desperately need him. No Reece Walsh, no Payne Haas. They had other players, Paddy Carrigan and those sort of players missing. So to judge the Broncos on what we saw the other night against the Dragons is a little bit unfair. Having said that, we're a fair way into the competition. We're 2/3 into the way of the competition, and they're back well down the ladder and just haven't produced anywhere near last year's form. I've always felt that Kevin Waller's looked really confident. He was just thinking, well, as soon as we get our team back, I'm looking at their draw for the last 8 weeks, and I'm thinking they can win them all. They'll certainly be thinking that way. As it turns out, they might have to, just to qualify. But I don't know. I'm starting to think that it could be nearly a record low to make the 8 this year on how many wins you need.
So you're thinking you might need less. You might be able to have more losses than wins.
I think so. If you've got
11 wins, 13 losses.
If somehow you can manufacture a good for and against, I just think.
And their for and against is still in the positive. I think they're about positive 13, maybe.
Yeah, they're as good as any around that ilk. But they can string. You win 4 or 5 games in a row in this competition, and things look very, very different straight away. People saying, oh, you're going to need 13 wins or whatever, I just don't know this year.
Is that a good sign for the competition, Gus, when that can happen? Does that show that there's an element of closeness between that 5th through 15th?
Well, there certainly is this year. Yeah. I think, and I've said this a lot, the reasons why the competition's even, is that you get a lot of fluctuations, wild fluctuations. Teams go up and teams go down, and people are doing it all the time, and teams you think are going to be good aren't so good, and teams you think are going to be bad do it, and we go up and down and up and down and up and down, and every few years we all meet in the middle. And that's kind of where things are at the moment. We're either kind of all oscillating there, and over the next 8 weeks, this lot could rise and this lot could fall, and we just don't know which way it's going to go. Injuries, decisions, close games, golden points, anything could happen over the last 8 weeks. And, the improved form of bottom teams like the Titans and Rabbitohs and, that are making a run now, games that they would have thought they'd get 2 points out are not available anymore. Yep. The top sides have looked beatable. Now whether they show a little bit more steel at the back end of the season, I don't know. I think the competition's, I don't know. I think it could be a record low number of wins to get in. That's
I still think you need around 12. I reckon I'm banking on 12. So
it'll probably be that way.
So if they need 12 wins, they've got to win 5 of their last 7 games.
It'll probably be that way, but mathematically I can get people in with less,
Well, if they do have to win 5 of their last 7, it's going to be a big ask because they've got to play the Cowboys and the Storm in the Storm's very last round of the year. And they've also got the Dolphins and the Dogs in there. They give you nothing. So there's 4 games that are going to be hard on their own. And they can only really afford to lose 2 at the most. So it dealt a blow early on in the year. Obviously, with Adam Reynolds tearing his bicep, he's been out this entire time. Then obviously they've got to deal with their 4 players in State of Origin through the 3 games. And they've had a number of injuries to some key players. But I honestly thought they'd have enough talent, enough depth in that side to be able to stick around that top 8 until the big guns come back and then obviously be successful at the back end of the year. But, they haven't been able to do it. Now, whether that's because on the back of their form last year, they thought it was just going to happen for them. They thought they'd be able to turn up and teams would fall over in front of them because they did have a good year last year. Like, as we say every single week, nothing happens in this competition. Nothing's given to you. You've got to go out there and you've got to earn it. You've got to work hard. Now, I'm sure they've worked hard in the pre-season, but throughout this year, in some games, they haven't been happy to work hard and they thought it was just going to happen. And as we know, it does not just happen in this competition.
They went to Vegas. They had a tough draw. They're a big draw card. They put them up against the better teams at the start of the year. You can get on the wrong leg of that. Yeah. That's why their draw is good at the back end of the year because promotionally, everyone wanted the Broncos in the prime time spots at the start of the season. That's what happens when you're winning competitions or you're up there in grand finals and you're a glamour slide like the Broncos. You're playing in the big games earlier in the season. The Las Vegas trip, lost over there, came back into all these big prime time games, got themselves down the ladder, get a few injuries, origin hits, playing without your stars, all of a sudden you're in a hole and can't work out, you start second-guessing yourself.
Snowballs quickly.
You've got to stop second-guessing yourself. You've got to pick your best team, get your best players out there and put your best foot forward. It's a pretty simple formula. It's not that hard, football.